Hey everybody, Jesse here for Three Prong Gaming, and welcome back. This is episode, I don't know, I think we're 15 or 16 now? And in this episode, we are going to start setting up our construction times. And we're going to link it all up to our actual in-game time functions. And so yeah, let's go ahead and get this started. All right. So in the last episode, we went ahead and we set up our ability to adjust the internal game time based off of the plus and minus buttons on the user interface, so we can change the game speed. So if you haven't checked that out, go ahead and do that. That is going to be important for what we're doing today, and really what we're going to be doing in the future for the rest of this. We are going to need to know that time. I want to take a minute and mention Chris. Back in episode 10, he left me a comment, and he asked me some thoughts and asked me if I could explain how I kind of go about making my functions and variables and just kind of my thought process when I'm designing stuff. Now, so I just want to take a minute and just kind of go over that. And that was actually perfect timing that he left me that comment, because this is actually an area I planned on getting into anyways, because ultimately it's... we're going to start getting into bigger and more complex issues. We're really close to diving into our AI, and things are really they're not going to be hard, but they're just going to get complicated. And you already got kind of a taste of it when we set up our parent-child and the way we're doing our proxies for construction and all that. Ultimately, when I'm thinking about what to do, all the videos I have up to this point is really the logical steps you need to take. Bite everything down into bite-sized chunks. Complete that task to where it's somewhat functional. It may not be perfect or complete, but it's operational, because you have to set a foundation for what you need to do. For example, today, setting up our construction time. Well, what do we need to know for construction time? What do we have to do to actually construct the building? Well, not only do we need functions and variables to be able to maintain the what we need, the work hours, and to control everything for the construction, but we also need, we need characters. We need players to come in and actually construct the building. Now, can we do the construction without the players? Yes, we can, because if we were to try to implement the players, you look at the construction and the overall scope, you need the player. Not only do you need the player, but now you need AI and to move the character around. And then what are you going to do? Even if you were to build the character in the AI, you still can't be complete with the AI because you have no construction functions and no foundation for the construction to build the AI. So then you start building your character and your AI, and you can't even come close to doing a minor piece of that, because now you've got to go back and rebuild your construction. Then you've got to go back and redo your character. And it's best not to jumble yourself up and jump around. You think of the broad scope of the tasks that you need to do, whether it's your player controller, like we did in the first 3 videos. We set up our player controller because we got to be able to move around the world. And we bit that off in 3 small chunks to be able to do various things. And same thing with this. So you're looking at the construction time. You know everything that needs to go into it. But what can you do, and what is the most logical step to take first before you start diving into the other stuff? Well, for us, it's going to be actually setting up the construction times. We're not going to worry about a character right now, because we can construct a building based off of our time without actually having somebody in it. So when we go back and we start working on our AI and we get our characters moving around, then we can come back and do only minor things to adjust our construction process in order for that AI to actually construct the building. Okay, so a lot of times what I do, one of the best things to do really is to write things down. You know, you get this grandiose idea of a game, and you're all excited, and then you sit down and you start to do it, and all of a sudden you just feel overwhelmed. So get your broad scope of the game, write it down. Then you take those bits and pieces of what you think is required to make that game, and you make separate lists out of those. And then you list the things that each one of those need. And then you prioritize in that sub list of what is the most logical step. Because really all that's programming is logic, whether it's logical processing in your thinking or just logical code and things of that nature. So I'm bad at writing things down, but what I have an app on my phone. It's just a checklist app. It's something easy. It's a free checklist app, and I put my ideas in there, and then I try to organize it into logical steps. Now, it seems easy for me because, well, what you guys see here, I prepare in advance. I'm pretty far ahead of where you're seeing me now in my main project. Now, I'm still tinkering a lot with it and going back and trying to figure things out. But, if I wasn't set up and prepared for these videos, it wouldn't be much fun for you. So that is probably the best advice I can give. Really, just write things down, bite it off in small chunks. Do not overwhelm yourself, because when I first started working with UE4, I wanted to do a first-person shooter, and I got way out of control trying to do things, and I got frustrated, and it was very difficult, and I just kind of took a step back and said, okay, forget the whole first-person shooter thing. What can I do that I will learn a lot from, that's still challenging? And this was the idea I came up with. So just don't be afraid to step back. Realize that the first game you make, the second game you make, the 100th game you make probably isn't going to get published, right? You've got to get to that level. So just don't be afraid to try new things. But don't overwhelm yourself. That's the thing mainly right there. All right. So I spent a few minutes on that, which means this is probably going to run a little bit over 30 minutes. We'll do what we can. You could see up here in the top of the screen, these pretty much are all the blueprints that we're going to need for this particular episode. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. First, let's go ahead and go into the building master. This one's going to be real easy. All we need is one new variable in here. And let's just go ahead and call this construction time. And this will be editable because we want all the children to be able to edit it. And the other thing that I like to do too, keep in mind, when I'm deciding what functions to use, whether they're my own functions or the internal functions, is most of it's just trial and error. Don't be afraid to try things. If it doesn't work, delete it. Run a lot of print screens and just see what the results of them are as it pops up on your screen. But really, naming conventions. Epic is really good about naming their functions and variables so you can pretty much tell what it is. So if you need to get the distance from something, you just type distance and see what pops up. Now we got get distance. You select that, and now you can see as I'm pointing at my screen with my finger is it says returns the distance from this actor to other actors. They put tooltips in there, but get distance to is pretty descriptive. You know what that's going to do. So, but with the added help of the tooltip, and I do put tooltips, just don't think I don't. I use a lot of tooltips when I'm creating my functions and stuff, because you start to get overwhelmed. You're going, what did I make that for? Even though the name might be specific, you go, what did I make that for? Then you got to go in, look back over your code and say, oh yeah, that's what I did it for. Put a tooltip in there. That's right here. You can put a tooltip on here. So just for an example, I don't do this during the episodes because it just takes too much time, but this is how long the building takes to construct. All right, something simple like that. Of course, we need to change this to a float. Make sure it's editable so all its children can have access to it and make their own instance of it and change it as they need to. But that's it. And then when you hover over the variable, it tells you this is how long the building takes to construct. So don't be afraid to do it. I don't do it during the episodes because it takes too long to do. And, I'm trying to keep these all within a reasonable time frame, which today is definitely going to run over. So that's all we need in the building master. So let's go ahead and close that. Next up, let's go ahead and jump into the ghost blueprint here, and don't mind that yet. Actually, we did do that. We won't come into that for just a second. But now we need access to, actually we will go in there into the get construction struct in the ghost blueprint, ghost building blueprint. And we need to handle this right here. Right now we're just passing a value of 1. Well, we need to pass something else to that. So let's go ahead and create a new variable, and we will call this, call it work hours required. And the reason why I'm doing this now, construction time is obvious in the building master blueprint because, well, it's for construction. But the reason why I named this, and I'll name a couple other work hours, is because the numbers we need to pass will be based off of hours. Okay, so keep everything like that. And by passing construction time, you might think minutes. You might confuse yourself. So I'm just doing work hours required. So go ahead and make that of type float. And then we will just drag and drop that on there. Now, obviously, this isn't set yet. So let's go ahead and go handle that. Okay, and go into the event graph. So what we need to do now is down here where we construct the building, we spawn the building temporarily so we can get the display mesh and the construction proxy, but we went into and we just created the variable in the building master now. So we can drag off of this and we can do get, what do we call it? Construction time. So we get that, we got that here. And as far as containing everything, like we do with a lot of the other ones for, I keep saying OOP. It's not always just OOP for object-oriented programming, but we could probably put a function inside the building master to be able to give these to us. So then we just call the function and then we pass, the results of the function onto this. So on spawn, now we need to be able to pass this onto the on spawn. So let's jump up here and just select the event, click new, and we will call this work hours. Make it type float, compile it, and let's move this out of the way a little bit. Okay, and then come back down here into construct, and now just plug the construction time into that. All right, so go ahead and head back up here. Now we need to do something with this. Well, let's just go ahead and create a little bit of space in here. Move this all just over, and we will set work hours required. All right, plug in this new link we just made, and there we go. We got that set here. Let's go ahead and move this out of the way again a little bit more. Where's my shift button? There it is. There we go. All right, so that's all nice and set. So now we got this variable. So what do we do with this variable once it gets passed? Okay, now what we need to do is we need to go ahead and go into the construction manager, all right? Because now that we're passing that variable out of here, out of the struct, we've got to be able to handle it coming out of this. So let's go ahead and actually that's finished construction. We need to go into the queue construction right here. Work hours required. Now we need to handle that because we're passing information through. So go ahead and we need to create a new function actually. Let's dive right into the construction proxy. All right, and this will be simple. Create a new function. We need to call this set construction time. Okay, input will be work hours. We will make it of type float. And then what all we'll do is we'll take this work hours and we need to set a new variable, call it, what do we need to call it? We need to call this, again, something relatively descriptive. We will keep this construction time because now we've passed everything. We know by this point that it's hours because it's already being passed through. So we'll just call it construction time. Obviously, time float. Drag this out and set it. And we'll just set it to the work hours. Run a return node off of this. Return node. And then that's it for this function. Okay. And that was kind of the thing with that. We know that when we came into the construction manager here, that we had to do something with this. And well, setting this is to the construction proxy because that's what's handling all our construction. So we had to go set a function to be able to set that. Now we could have just drug off of here and did set construction time, but you know me by now. I like setting functions because it makes things a lot more scalable. So let's go ahead and drag off of this proxy here, and we need to do set construction time. Pull that up, link it up, and then just take our work hours required off of the construction struct and plug that in. and I'll come back and organize all this a little bit later. I know we're running a little bit low on time. So, and then that's it. So compile and save that. And then now we need to go back into our construction proxy. We can go ahead and close out the construction time. And actually, I did make a mistake. I just noticed as I was closing it in my other window. Let's go ahead and open that back up. What we actually need to do, the way we're going to be running our time, is we're actually going to be passing minutes to it, seconds to it. I think we're passing seconds to it. So what we need to do actually is we need to take this and we need to multiply float times float, and we are multiplying it by 60. This will give us minutes, and we're going to readjust this again to get the hours, but we'll do that elsewhere. Right now we're passing seconds, so we need to multiply it by 60 to get minutes. That'll be construction time. Okay, compile it and save it. Now we can close that out. We don't need that one again. And let's see, back here in the event tick. All right, sorry about that. You may have noticed that I cut away there, but I opened this up and I kind of confused myself because it's been a little while, a couple episodes since we've been in the construction proxy. And as I've mentioned in the past, I have a separate project that I do right before my episodes so that I know what I'm going to do in the episodes. And yeah, so I kind of build two projects in one. Actually, I've got, 3 of this same project going on at the same time, simply for the videos. But I opened it up and there was stuff that I didn't set today when in preparation for this, and I had to go back and watch some of my other videos real fast to make sure that I didn't mess up somehow and delete what I had in here. So I must have set it another time because I don't think it was there. So anyways, let's go ahead. We need to add some new variables. Sorry about that. Let's go ahead and call this one is construction completed. All right, let's make it a Boolean. And like it says, this will tell us if construction is completed. So we need let's go ahead and move this. We're going to need some space in here. Create a branch. All right, and then just hook this up. Now we need to check, is construction completed? All right, because obviously we don't want to do, we want this is in tick. We don't want to go beyond a certain point if construction isn't completed. So also while we're at it, we will need delta seconds. So just right click on this and promote to variable. Let's call this delta. That's fine. And then hook this up. We need to capture this delta because we need to keep track of time. All right, I'll hook that up. And now after construction is completed, we're going to add our function to do the construction here. So if construction is not completed, we'll drag off of that and build our new function. So we need a new function. Let's go ahead and call this do work. Now on do work, we don't need any inputs on it, but what we need is we need to actually control the time in here. There's actually more we're going to have to do in here. This is all part of what I was talking about. When we get our AI, we're going to have to come back and we're going to have to adapt our AI to this, but we need to build all this in here first. But what we need to do, let's jump over to game state really fast. And in the tick, we created the set clockwork function. Well, we made this a local function. There's going to be at least one other right now that we know of in the construction proxy that we're going to need a similar type of function. So, and there's probably going to be a place in the future that we're going to need a typical another instance of something like this. So what we need to do, let's go ahead and create a new function in our function library. Let's go ahead and open up your function library, and let's go ahead and call this new function. Where's the new function at? Select it. Let's go ahead and call this set clock, not clock work. All right, we'll put that in there. We need 3 inputs to 3. The first one, we'll call it delta seconds. This next one we will call time unit, and the third one will be clockwork in. Hit enter. All of them need to be of type float. Let's go ahead and change those up. Float, float, and float. So what we need to do is, knowing what our other one looks like here, let's go ahead and open this up, is we set in here these. So we're going to pass in delta seconds, we're going to pass in this time unit, and we're going to pass in this clockwork. So ultimately all we need to do, we can just go ahead and copy that, Control C, copy that, come back to our function library, and Control V. Let's just go ahead and paste it. So we know from that other function we built, delta seconds gets divided by our time unit, and then the clockwork gets added here, right? So go ahead and on the return node now, what we need to return on the output is, let's see, another float. We'll call this clockwork out. And then the second one, we won't need this second one for every single instance we use this, but we need it at least for one, which is the game state. So we'll call this day tick, and then make that of type integer. Okay, so take this return node, punch that out here. So the remainder will be your clockwork out, and this will be the day tick. Okay, so compile it, save it, and now that's in our function library. We can go ahead and use it wherever we want, anywhere we want. So let's jump back into the event graph of my game state, and let's just delete this function, and we will call set. Did we delete it? No, let's go ahead and delete it from there as well. So right click now, set clockwork. It is right here under function library. Pull that out, and we can actually go back in here, and I know I'm always bad at doing this. Let's go ahead and make this a pure function because it's just calculating values for us. There's no real execution going on. So go back into my game state and update it for us. So we take our clockwork or our delta seconds, plug that in. Take our time unit, plug that in there as well, and then our clockwork and plug that in there. All right. So as long as you're consistent in the other areas you use this with the naming conventions of your variables, then you should be good to go. So now let's just go ahead and plug in the clockwork to that and our day tick back into there. Perfect. So that's awesome. Compile it and save it. Now we can use this elsewhere. Let's go ahead and jump back into the construction proxy. Man, we are at 22 minutes, 23 minutes right now. Tough. All right, jump in a construction proxy here in our do work. So let's go ahead and call that set clockwork. There it is. Now, what do we need for this? Well, we set up our delta here, so we can go ahead and drag that in. We need a time unit and we need a clockwork variable. So let's go ahead and set those. We need time unit, make it a float to match, and then create a new one, and this one will be clockwork. All right, compile it, drag in your time unit, hook that up there, grab your clockwork, hook that up in there. All right, so now we need to take this and grab our clockwork again, but we'll set it. And then we'll just take this and we'll plug it into our clockwork. Now, I told you just a couple minutes ago that we were going to have to multiply again because the work hours that we're passing through are in seconds. We multiplied it by 60 to get the minutes out of it. And now we need to multiply it one more time by 60 to get our hours. Okay, multiply it by 60. And then we need another variable here because now we need to keep track of this. So we need to, this is our do work. So as time passes, this value we want to keep track of. And the only time that when we build our AI, this value will actually quit increasing if our characters leave the proxy before the building is constructed. So we need to be able to check that. So let's go ahead and name this. We'll just call this work time spent. Go ahead and drag that in as a set, and then just plug in the value right here into there, and that is the work time that we have spent. All right, and then just return node is all we need off of this. We don't need anything to exit. Compile it, jump back into here. So let's go ahead and grab our do work that we just did, and we will hook this up off of the false, because if construction is completed, we don't want to do anything because construction's been completed. So ultimately this tick is going to end anyways, but we don't want it. Tick is so fast, we don't want it to actually run something else before this has a chance to destroy itself. Okay, so after we do our work here, what we need to do now before we decide if the construction is completed is we need to run a branch, put that in here. And what we need to do is we need to check work time spent, All right, that's how much time we've actually did here in the work. And we need to see if this is greater than or equal to. Make sure you make it equal to, because things are moving so fast and you've got fractions of a number in here that to hit the exact amount of construction time is going to be impossible. It'll be virtually impossible. And if it does happen, it'll be so fast that it may not actually pick it up, because it may, it may be mid-tick or something. So always do greater than or equal to, especially when working with floats and you're working with ticks. So if our work time spent is greater than or equal to the actual construction time, now we want to do something with that. So what we need to do now is we need to take our is construction completed. We'll set it in the true, because now we're greater than or equal to. And we will set this to true. So that will prevent this tick from doing any more work beyond this point. Okay. And that will be pretty much it. Let's go ahead and drag this into here. Now we'll call the construction completed. And then just before we destroy the actor, we need to put in a minor delay. So go ahead and do delay. Where's it at? There it is. And we'll just leave it at the default 0.2. That is fine. Now we'll drag off of when the delay is done. We will destroy actor. All right. And the actor we're going to destroy is itself. This construction proxy will go away. We'll deal with this in the construction manager, because when it calls construction completed, the construction manager will handle everything and remove it from the list of proxies in here. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this. Next up, what we need to do now is go into your apartment. Where is it? There it is, apartment. Now remember, we set the variable in the building master, so we've got access to construction time. I thought I set, let's go in here real quick, go into our building master. I thought I set a default value of construction time. I did not. Let's set that as a default to 1, just because, just to be safe. All right. And that will be 1 hour. So we come back into, where were we? The apartment small. And now it's defaulted to 1. Just for brevity, let's just go ahead and make it 0.5, which will make it a half hour. And again, this is all based off of the actual internal clock. What we need to do, though, to make sure that the time function is working properly, is go into my game state, and we need to, we can't, I originally thought we could just call this in like begin play, and it would update everything that's using this time feature, but that won't work, because things like our construction proxy are loaded at varying times well after the game state is loaded. So we can't do that. So what we need to do is, first and foremost, if we ever want to change the actual speed of our game, the normalized speed of the game, we only want one place. We've made a variable called default game speed. Okay, so let's drag that out, get it, and we'll take our time unit and we'll set our time units. Now, if you ever want to change your default base game speed, all you have to do is change your default game speed. Okay, so you can see here it's set to 150. Even though we set our time unit to be defaulted 150, that's not going to matter, because we're going to set it to whatever this one variable is. So now we'll set the time unit right there. Man, 29 minutes. We're almost done to be able to test this. So after we do that, we need to go back into our construction proxy, right? And now we need to create an event begin play. So go ahead and begin play, put that in here. We need access to our game state. So go ahead and do game state. And this is something we probably could pass through. Like I said, you want to try to not cast as much as possible. But right now at this point, I'm just going to leave this as is. Cast to my game state and plug that in. So now we need to just go ahead and promote this to a variable. We'll call it game state reference. And like I like to do, we'll categorize it into references. All right. Now we've got access to this. And let's see. We can go take this code. This is something new. I'm not used to this yet. you can right click your casting and you can turn it into a pure cast. It'll still it'll still fail, but it gives you this instead. It makes it a little bit more user friendly to cast it as a pure. So I'm trying to get in the habit of doing that. It's ultimately the same thing, but you don't have all the execution pins coming off, and you know, you don't have to run for the fail. You don't have to check for that if you know that you're going to be good to go. In this, we're going to be good to go. So now from our game state, we need to bind update game speed. All right. Go ahead and plug this in. Now we don't have a function to bind to yet, so let's go ahead and create a custom event here, custom event, and we will call this adjust time. So now every time if you remember from the last episode, we set this up, so every time this gets called, it will update this time variable that we have set here in our do work. Okay, so all we want to do with this is take our time unit, alt and drag it out to set it, and in this, we need the signature of our bind event, and the only thing coming out of our bind event is a float, so we'll call this time unit, and then we'll plug this straight into here. So now if we come off of our bind event and select event dispatcher, create event, now we have access to our adjust time right there. That is good to go. So now every time this will bind it right here at the begin play. Every time we spawn the proxy, it'll bind that proxy to that dispatcher. And every time we hit the plus button, it will plus or minus button, it will update automatically our time unit, which will affect our do work, and our do work will keep track with the actual game time. So 1 hour will always be 1 hour. Now, I do believe that that is it, but it's not. We didn't do anything in here. What we need to do, because before we were just spawning it so fast that you never realized that our construction proxy doesn't have any mesh. We're passing a display mesh. We've got it right here, but we're not doing anything with it. We have nothing up here. So let's go ahead and add a new component. Look for a static mesh. Leave its name is just fine. Drag it over your default route. So now this becomes your default route. Okay. So now how do we set this static mesh? Well, we go into our construction script over in here, and in the construction script, we need to, sorry, I'm pulling this over. We need to grab this static mesh, drop it in here, pull off, and set static mesh right there. Plug this in, and then what we're going to set it to is our display mesh. Okay, and one thing we want to do too is our display mesh is still passing a material to it, but we're in construction stage. We don't want the full scale material to it. So drag off of your static mesh again, and we will do set material. This is the rendering material. This is the internal setting material function, not the one we made back in the Ghost BP. Okay, but like that, what we need to do, the material we want, we're just going to continue using the Ghost M instance. All right, compile it, save it. Now cross your fingers. This should work. So let's grab an apartment. Let's try to time this out here so it shows as soon as it clicks minute, there, 6:03. We set this to work in a half hour, so it should be done by 6:33. I'll fast forward until we get right to the end because this will take a minute. Okay, 6:30. So now it's right about 6:33. It should turn solid. There it goes. That was about right. So, yeah, that was it. It took a half hour. So now the construction office is still set for an hour, but see, if we wanted to adjust the game speed, see, we click up here just so you could see it hooked up. Actually, we'll do the hour. Construction is still set up for an hour. So we'll click it in here at 6:50 right there. And we'll fast forward. Oh, see, I missed it, but right about 6:50 it went. So 6:08 or 8:08. So now 9:08, and I missed it again. See, got to be quick as fast as we got that time set up. But it's following, what the heck is, why didn't that one construct? Well, see, got a bug in the system. See, always got to be a bug in the system. Maybe just because it's moving so fast that it doesn't notice it right off the bat. Yeah, see, there we go. Just because we're moving so fast. That was the bug in there. That's not going to be in there when we actually play the game. We're not going to be moving that fast. So, but you can do fast after you place the building. Yeah, not when you actually place the building, because the hour's up. By the time you set it down, the program doesn't have enough time to respond to it. So you turn it down, turn it back up, and there it goes. Okay, and yeah, that's it. So 20 or 36 minutes into this. I hope you guys enjoyed this. We are really close. I'm going to have to lay it out. I can't say for sure what the next episode is going to be, but we are really close to start getting our character put together so we can work on this construction time and get our characters moving around. And that's going to take several episodes to do. We're going to need an episode, maybe 2, to actually do the character. Then we're going to probably need about 2 or 3, maybe 4 episodes to do just the basic AI to work on the construction to get them moving around. But we're right there. We're right at that. I know some of you are probably looking forward to that. But I'll lay out the next episode soon, but we're not too far away. I'd say within the next couple episodes, we'll probably be starting on our character and getting him moving around in the world. So for now, thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please do me a favor, go down and hit that like button. It helps me out a ton. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe to it while you're down there liking it. And as always, see you in the next episode. Peace.